Crickets or hiccups, huh?
Yeah,
I
yeah, you
always
guys have a
succeed
great night.
with holding my breath.
No, really? Well, I just did a lot of talking. It seems to have done the trick for now. We'll see.
Good deal.
All right.
Hope it's
Hey, good night, guys.
You
All right,
bet.
good night,
You have a
Chris.
great one, Chris.
good to hear your voice tonight.
Yeah, yours too. Good night.
Howdy, Patty. How you doing? Good evening. Mikey B, Shelley Capelli. All right. Well, good evening, there, Mr. Dead Cat.
Well, wait a minute. Weren't those people all here this morning on our Magnum show?
Well, I suppose they were. Yes.
Much.
Good to see everybody back.
Yes, absolutely.
They didn't get enough of us this morning, so they're back for more.
Enough punishment, huh? Didn't get enough punishment yet.
So good day today. Hey, what's this I hear about? What? There's a fire someplace?
I'm trying to get some information from Sassy Q on that. Apparently, there's a fire up near where she lives, and Sherpanon has headed to the fire station, maybe out on the fire line tonight. I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is.
Oops.
Well, I can close my front door so the crickets can go away.
Eric Johnson says he caught the straight shooting Magnum edition this morning. Good for you.
Very cool.
I appreciate it, Eric. All right. Well,
let me close this door. These crickets, I didn't realize they were that loud.
They're coming through pretty good on my headset here.
Yeah, here they're not that loud, but I'll fix it.
Well, while Dead Cat is out over closing the door and giving the crickets the heave-ho, how's everybody this evening? Did you all have a good day? Like Chris was saying, it was windy here today, and the jets were leaving big, long white trails this afternoon. Ugh, hate that. So I hope everybody is having a great Monday. How many people out there were keeping an eye on President Trump as he was being escorted around all the different places with the royals and having dinner with them all? It's hard for me to imagine him hobnobbing with all of these people, knowing what he knows about them. That's kind of weird. You think that'd be a little weird there, DC?
Well, given that he's been hobnobbing with criminals pretty much all of his life, and kind of in a way, keeping his enemies closer. Mm-hmm. He's kind of used to it, I think. He kind of knows how to play the game in such a way that they don't even see him coming.
I don't know if you were watching Pam during his Freedom Rings show today. Was it today?
Only for a couple of minutes.
But there was a fella he had on there. He was showing that had been hanging around with Trump and taking pictures of him early in 2017. And he made the observation that there's the frenetic energy around him, and there's just
I saw that part. I actually saw that part. Yes. Yeah. He thrives on this energy. He actually creates it.
Yeah.
He creates the chaos and then just lives in it. And all these other people are just, and he is the storm.
Yeah.
He literally is the storm.
That is so just, whoa. That's very unusual, not unusual isn't the word. It's just weird.
Yeah, I know you're searching for a word there, and I don't have it either. But it's truly phenomenal.
It is. and you wonder about what this energy is, and how he manages to manage around it.
Well, he said, Mr. Purple Tie says it's Tesla energy.
It's Tesla energy, huh?
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe so.
Good evening, Dagny. How you doing? Yeah. All right. So we've got a few things planned for everybody tonight to kind of a mixing pot, so to speak, of some stuff. Unless Dead Cat has come up with something really cool that he hasn't told me about yet, but
Oh, I would warn you in advance if I had.
uh,
I do have that couple of short stories. They're not stories because they actually happened, but
mm,
that people were asking me about it this morning and asking if I would cover it on Hyperdrive, and I said I would. So I have that, but that's not going to take up any time. You know about that already.
yeah, yeah. Well, shall we get the show on the road?
Let's do it, man.
I'm ready.
By the way, good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too, brother. All right. All right, guys. Here we go.
I like it.
All right. I do like our opener. I love the music. I really do like the music.
Makes you want to go cruising through the galaxy.
It does.
Yeah.
I need to find out, see if we can find some more music very similar to that, or that's a short piece. It's barely a minute long, actually.
Fortunate Patriot was who found that.
He found that, and I got to go search the site where he got it. By the way, I got a really cool package, an envelope from Fortunate Patriot tonight in the mail, and had a little metal cue, kind of like
Well, you seem to be coming through just fine.
yeah. Well, we'll just muddle through.
Yeah.
I
I managed to weather the modem. Pouring a half a cup of coffee down my modem this morning.
Yeah, folks, don't pour coffee in your modem. It doesn't do the same thing for your modem as it does for us.
Modems do not need to be caffeinated. But it didn't have any ill effects, evidently. I just the only thing I had to do was reboot it, and it works fine. So that's a good thing. I still haven't hung it on the wall. I haven't figured out how to get over there to it because I've got a whole bunch of electronics in between me and the wall. So I haven't yet figured out, exactly how to go about it. But I'm gonna hang it on the wall and get it up out of harm's way, since that would be me, harm's way.
Your own brand of frenetic energy, huh?
Yeah, evidently so. Go run around behind the machine there and knock over a cup of coffee into the modem. Not too good. I almost got the laptop too. I was thinking, oh crap, it's going to suck up into the fan inside the laptop too, but it didn't. So, yeah, I moved everything rather rapidly. I cussed a bit too, of course. You know how I am.
No. Tell me it's not so.
I admit it. I do it frequently. I was talking to, we have another, for you guys out there, we have a friend of ours that you guys have seen every once in a while. He's one of our nons. His name is Karaoke. And,
oh yeah, they know Karaoke.
Yeah, and I was talking to him the other day, and getting some of his advice on how to do some things with my GIMP, because he likes the GIMP program for doing graphics, and so I had him on the line. I had him on the Discord chat on a phone call, and we were having trouble. He was trying to explain to me, this is what you do, and he's reading it off of he's bringing it up out of his memory, but he's kind of reading it off of the old version that he uses, and not the new version that downloads now. And so it's got different wording. It's got different, different way of describing what it is you're intended to do. So he says, what you do is you go up and you go to this, and it doesn't say that. It says something different, So we're cussing back and forth, and he says he just starts cracking up laughing. He says, I've got a friend of mine. We went. He's a friend of Bill's, if you understand the reference. And he says, what we do is we get together and we'll just scream and yell and cuss at each other for about 15 minutes. Then we're done. And then we're just having a great time together. Everything's cool, And I know it kind of freaks you out a little bit that I, kind of appear to be going off the deep end, but it's just a release. It's just an energy release,
Oh, it's not that. I've been around plenty of folks that and construction work, and the Navy, and and I've been known to engage myself, but I guess I'm just not as quick to start. Yeah. Because, well, for one thing, it's like, when I get to that point, if I really am really ticked off, I've only thrown something across the room a couple of times, and you usually do more damage than you do good. And so I remember one time I got really ticked off. The boys were acting out and being dumb and everything. We were in the car, and I had to open up the back of the Yukon, and this is my old Yukon. My other, let's see, this one is a 2006, so that was the '96 Yukon, and I closed the back hatch, and I closed it aggressively. That wasn't a good idea. I ended up having to replace the back window.
Oh, that's not good at all.
No, no, it wasn't good at all. And yeah, a couple of times like that, and you go, oh, there's a better way to handle this. Oh,
Well,
crying out loud.
you're just not supposed to get to that point. That's why you start cussing.
Uh,
You just kind of let it, let it all out. Then you don't worry about it. You want to see something really cool?
what's that?
I'm going to show this to you. This is incredible. This was just referenced by out there in YouTube by one of our YouTube guests, our friends out there that are attending here. You've got to see this. This is so cool. Look at this.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes.
Wow.
Isn't that an awesome picture?
That is incredible. That's almost, well, it's about as perfect as you can get.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen,
Wow.
I've seen that. That is a amazing photo.
Boy, you actually kind of don't want to see something like that bearing down on you. It's kind of hypnotizing, It's kind of like, how do you get out of the way when you can't move?
Yeah, yeah. Not a good thing.
Well, thank you for that, Boston Smalley. That is so cool.
Okay. So, shall we do a quick roll call? How about it, folks out there in live chat? You ready to do a roll call? I'm Thumper in the Pacific Northwest, and he is
Dead Cat, east of the mountains, Oregon, reporting for duty.
all right. And how about you folks? Who do we have out there in live chat tonight?
Mr. Purple Tie says that ain't no duck.
And Chippy says, I want a poster of that. that is an amazing shot of a bald eagle.
Yeah, and Boston Smalley says if you scroll down on that article, there's a video of it coming toward you.
Oh, we have Patty L over in Helena, Montana, DJ from Indy, Wisconsin, Shelly Capelli, I'm back. Hey there, says Dee Dee Hagen, North Bend, Oregon, Eastern Ohio, checking in, Tennessee, good morning, guys, New York City, Napa, California. Lori Armstrong says, I'm sleepy. Yeah, I had to work today, too, I'm sure, yeah. Rowan Norton, Virginia, good morning, Mike, let's see, Sharon Hobbs saying good morning to Mikey B. Love you guys. Wait up for you in California. Minneapolis, I've got a feather from Native Indian from an eagle. There you go. West of the mountains, Oregon. Reporting from Fallon, Nevada, right here. Anna Rogers, Northeast Texas, Georgetown, Kentucky, Southeast Idaho. Howdy. Oklahoma, on the fire watch in Benton City, says SQ, WB Shelley. Hi from Victoria, Australia. I'm Wake in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Beaufort, South Carolina. Pensacola. Hi, guys. Temecula, California. Massachusetts, hello boys, 48 degrees in the New York mountains. The Eagles are roosting. 1717 here across the pond. There you go. UK enjoying POTUS visit. There you, yeah. He's over there. Got all frenetic energy running around in your castles and whatever else there. Nebraska, Halifax, Virginia, reporting for On Dirty Sir. North Florida, check me in. Spacing it high in Tennessee. There you go. Colorado, love Hybrid Drive. Thank you, Dead Cat and Thumper. Thank you for being here with us. Here, where is my TR3B? Well, it's right behind the one I'm going to get. Okay. TMC in no man's land. Hey, TMC, how you doing? Good to see you out there. Northeast Nevada. Hello from Houston. Love the show. Oklahoma City. I must be here, says Buddy Knight. Well, if you're here, I'm there, or there, I'm there. You're here. Where? Yeah. Dead Cat's over there.
Breaking Spectre here. Cool.
All right. Hey, Breaking Spectre, how you doing? Hey, you better get some sleep. You got a 2-hour show to do tomorrow. But you can stick around as long as you like, man.
We also have a show to do tomorrow. So
yeah. We'll lock it down for the first 2 hours. You get the second 2 hours. Northern California checking in. Dead Cat, Thumper, love you guys. Thanks, Chippy, appreciate it. Stuck on Earth's second moon, waiting for a freaking lift. Well, we'll send help. Good morning from Wisconsin. There you go. Everett, Washington, Vancouver, BC. Teresa Manning. Hey guys, Anchorage, Alaska, and it's getting warmer. There you go. East Central Arizona, 7,000 feet, 46 degrees. Oh, 7,000 feet. My gosh. Okay. And let's see, South Africa, Von Tosh. Good to have you with us. Thank you for checking in. West Texas, reporting for duty, 007, or salute. I keep going 07. Good evening from Clark County, Washington, Pasadena, California, a friend of Bill. There you go.
Absolutely.
Just moved from South Carolina to South Carolina from Walla Walla, says stands with a smirk. Love from Wet and Wild, Wisconsin.
Stands with a smirk.
Yeah, really.
I'm sure there's a story that goes with that.
Well, let's see, the kid and the Indian with the drum.
Right.
Yeah, stands with smirk.
Stands with a smirk, yes.
Yeah. Southern California, good evening, and Monarch, Montana. I'm sapient there. And then and Chippy says, no, Dad, sorry, I'm a vet from Wisconsin. Okay. All right. Time to break out the mosquito nets. Yeah, the mosquitoes are starting to buzz around, aren't they? And as we get serenaded by Dead Cat's keyboard. Bang, bang, bang.
Well, it's better than the crickets, right? as if it's an either or situation, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. What do we got here? I've got a couple of different things. You've got a story or two I know that you wanted to share tonight.
Well, I do. Yeah, it's interesting, strange occurrences that seem to fit our hyperdrive theme. Did you want me to go ahead and go into them now?
Well, you're going to keep everybody in suspense?
Yeah, I thought I'd go until, I don't know, 2:45, something like that, 1:40. Oh, all right. So here's what happened. Saturday morning, I got up and I got out of the house early, heading toward Sassy Q's to do the work that I was going to do out in your yard. And so I'm just driving along and I'm noticing things, just kind of, just a really great morning, really beautiful, crisp, clear sky, and just feeling really good, got a cup of coffee, got my dog on my lap, and got my Jeep, and I'm driving. I'm thinking, I love my Jeep, and I'm looking around and stuff. When I did notice a couple of very interesting things that I pointed out to Thumper, that I passed two major hydroelectric projects on my way. And one of them is the Dalles Dam. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a dam with a big, on the Oregon side, you can see the face of the powerhouse, which is the house which is the building that contains the generators.
Turbines and the generators.
Yeah, the turbines that drive the generators. The water comes in from the back of the dam, flows through the ports at the top, through the turbines. Turbines turn, generate power, and then you see this turbulence down below the powerhouse, where the water coming out is has passed through the and it's all spun out, and you get all these whirlpools and stuff like that. Absolutely nothing. Not one of the generators is running. I thought, well, that's interesting. This is a hydroelectric project. You'd think that they'd be creating power, especially considering here we are on a fairly warm, near summer day, and you'd think that people would be spooling up their air conditioners and whatever, but nothing running. Absolutely zero. It's just a flat, calm water there. And I know what they look like because I've been around them. I've been around the hydroelectric projects on the Columbia all my life, and I know what it looks like when they're running, and nothing running there. So I'm cruising along, and I'm on the Washington side now, and I'm watching, and I see the John Day Dam, which is on. I'm seeing it from the Washington side. It's upriver from the Dalles Dam, and I look over and I see their powerhouse area. Absolutely nothing working. No whirlpools, no indication whatsoever, and they're running all their water off the bypass spillways to just keeping the river flowing, and
And we're talking about the Columbia River, okay?
Columbia River. It's a
This
very
is-
large river, and it's got a
It's a
huge,
big river.
a group of hydroelectric dams on it, all the way from Bonneville Dam, furthest out, closest to the ocean, all the way up to into Canada. There's dams all along the river, and they use it to generate electricity. Well, neither one of these two powerhouses are functioning. So you think, well, where are they getting this electricity? Now, I did see a lot of the wind generators that they have up on the hills. They were going okay, but Thumper and I have considered the possibility that maybe they're creating their energy from Tesla free energy and charging us for it by running it through the power lines into our house. Just a theory. Don't know if it's true, but that just seemed like an anomaly to me, that the powerhouses wouldn't be functional on two of the major dams on the Columbia River. But nonetheless, that isn't the story, that isn't what I really experienced. I noticed, and I'm driving along, and I don't know if you guys can see me. I'm waving my arms around and doing all crazy things here, but I'm looking over kind of at an angle through my windshield up to the what to me is the northeasterly direction, and I'm traveling due east. And I see up in the sky there's a jet up there that's doing a chemtrail. And I've been one of our anons here. I don't know if he wants me to bring this stuff up, but I won't name him. But I will say that one of our anons here has sent me some stuff about how we have more power, the more abilities than we understand or know. And he was telling me some of the stuff that he's experienced about how he's affected the way things operate. Like one of the things, just for a point of information, was that he was in a windstorm and he was watching leaves and sticks and stuff blow by him. And he concentrated on this one leaf and he got it to stop. It was the only leaf out of the whole bunch. He got it to stop moving, and there was nothing around it had stopped moving. Everything else was blowing, and he stopped, and then he let it go, and then he stopped it again, and it was like he played around with it, like, and he obviously, he says, this isn't me that's doing this. This is God's energy working through me. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm driving along there, and I'm looking up at the sky, I see this chemtrail happening up in the sky. And that came to mind after having watched that video and listened to it. That came to mind, and I looked up there and I said, "Stop! No chemtrails today." Incredibly, it stopped, and it continued on across the sky, and I could see it, and it was coming across from the northeast, which is over to the left of me, coming across my windshield and then going across a wide area where you can see a long way to the horizon. And as far as I was watching this thing, it had not started chemtrailing again. So I thought, wow, that works. That's pretty cool. And thank you, God. Thank you very much for that. We don't need that kind of crap. It's a beautiful day. We don't need no chemtrails. Well, just about that time, up over the corner of my windshield. I drive a Jeep, so you guys, if you understand how the windshield thing works, the big flat sheet of, it's not like curved like you see in a car. It's this big flat thing in front of you. Well, I see just creeping over the top of my roof, coming from west to east, I see another one that's laying down this heavy chemtrail, and it's coming toward the area where the other plane was, where I had managed, through God's energy, to stop the chemtrail there. And I pointed up and I said, no, stop. You're not going to do that today. Incredibly, it had just done a short distance from where it first became visible until it had crossed the other path, and it stopped and it continued on and didn't start up again. I mean, and again, I could see far into the distance, and I was watching this thing. I'm thinking, whoa, that's pretty cool, you know. And I'm wondering, okay, it makes an X. You know, I could see that it was a clear X over there somewhere over the northeast of me, somewhere up in Washington. I'm wondering, X marks the spot. Is this possibly a crisscross, that maybe that was the intention, that it was going to be a crisscross, like an aim point, and they're going to shoot a directed energy weapon out of space, and it's going to start a fire or something like that. So I'm looking over, as much as I can over the horizon there, over the hills, to see if maybe there's smoke coming up or something like that. And I'm driving along, and I notice that this thing is moving across the sky. And the weird thing about it is, in the Columbia Gorge, the jet stream kind of follows the river, which means that it moves west to east. Well, this thing is moving, this X is moving intact north to south, which is absolutely against the jet stream. It's moving at a 90-degree angle to the jet stream. And wow, that's kind of weird. I wonder if it's going to maintain its shape all the way to where, and I'm thinking to myself, well, what happens if I get to be under it and it's still an X and it lines me up with the sun? Maybe I'm the target. Why would that be? I have no idea, but why, what if I'm the target? And as it's moving across, it's actually the line up and down and the line going across are a cross. They make a cross right above me, almost in a direct line with the sun. And I'm thinking, whoa, is this a sign? Okay. I say to myself, God, if you're doing this, if you're trying to point something out to me, get my attention, give me a sign. Tell me yes in some way, if you would, please. And so immediately, instantly, within probably 5 seconds or less, my attention is drawn from the sky, which I've been watching pretty good here, to the road, because I'm going around a curve, and I see a semi that's heading from the opposite direction, heading east to west. And I see this semi, and I'm looking at it, and I'm, don't be running over into my lane. Don't cause any trouble. And the semi goes by, no problem. I look in the rear view mirror. It's a Target truck. Okay. Once again, you got the question, how many coincidences before it's mathematically impossible? Well, it happened again on the way home, although it wasn't quite as direct. There was chemtrails running across the sky, and I pointed at them and I said, stop, and the chemtrail stopped. 3 times on the way home.
Stance with Smirk says it sounds like an acid flashback there, BW Dead Cat.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. However, I swear I am absolutely not making this up, and I'm not hallucinating. And I saw it again this morning. This morning I got up and I looked up at the sky, and there's this chemtrail going along, and I saw this, and it was bright, clear sky. One jet flying across the sky, and it's laying down a chemtrail. And I looked up and I saw it. Okay, here we go, God. Stop. Right where I told it to stop, it stopped. And then it got up overhead, and I started toward the door, like I took my attention away from it. And it got up, I was heading toward the door, and looked up again, and it had it started up again. But then, now, if you guys remember, if you were with us when Frank Chili was here, and was on our show doing his interview. He said that he's been told that the friendlies up there in space have been zapping these chemtrails and taking the nasty stuff out of them. Okay. Well, I'm watching what's left of the chemtrail because it stopped right where I said to stop. It stopped, but it just started up again down here. And then where it started up again, I'm looking at it. I said, I'm watching the chemtrail production behind the jet, and it's got these little firefly looking things. They're way, way up. I mean, we're talking probably 60,000 feet, something like that. And it's got these little firefly things going on behind in the contrail itself, or in the chemtrail. And the chemtrail is disappearing. Everywhere you see these little flashes, the chemtrail is disappearing as this thing is flying forward. I don't know. I'm not given to hallucinations or, flights of mental fantasy, but I don't know what else to say. It's just incredible to me. So, use your own discernment there, your own judgment. If you guys think I'm lying, if you guys think I'm, making this whole thing up, story, whatever, I swear I'm not, but use your own judgment on that. I don't think I've lied to anybody yet. So,
No, you're not one to embellish a story. So I take you at your word. I mean, we've all had, I've had incredible dreams that would set you back. Most people, it would set most people back to have some of the dreams that I've had. And I've had conversations with many of the folks that have had similar, not similar, but pretty bizarre dreams. And when you ask yourself, what does this mean? And then all of a sudden, the meaning of that dream becomes, clear, totally clear to you, and it fits to something in your life, or in my case, it was a family tragedy. I had several dreams about it. And it really didn't say anything about the tragedy. It just the message was in the dream, but it was encoded in such a way that I would never have figured it out. It was kind of like a cue thing. It was encoded, and then at the right moment, at just the right moment, it all added up. Boing. So I cannot. No, Chippy, I was not a pilot. I was a naval air crewman. I flew on reconnaissance aircraft, and then as an in-flight technician and equipment operator. And then I also was maintenance personnel for the Blue Angels when we got the FA-18s. So that's my aviation background, but I've got over 10,000 flight hours as a in-flight technician and equipment operator. So, but the funny thing is, and all the time, somebody asked me the other day, and all that time that you flew, did you ever see anything weird? Only what other guys were doing in the airplane. Well, no.
Really? You picked up here to do that crap? Yeah. Sample says, I believe you. I've prayed them away. In seconds, the chemicals disappear. It's amazing. It really is. I mean, it's like, and I don't claim that I've got any power. I just, I'm just saying this is what happened. And I kept in my mind that, that there's, if in fact, God, you're operating through me, now's a really good time to do it. because these guys don't belong in our sky. And it was just, wow, so cool.
Chippy says, "Okay, was only a ground pounder in the Army? Yeah, come on, man. You know, everybody has their job, everybody does their thing, and everybody is important. You know, we're all brothers. We're all brothers, and we're all doing it for our country. So, thank you for your service, Chippy. I appreciate it.
Yes,
God bless you, brother.
Salute to you, brother. Ground pounder, I tell you what, the central core of our military structure, ground pounders.
What do they say? It takes boots on the ground.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, hey, I've got a story here. I've got a little article to kind of kick off some and speaking of Army, okay, ground pounders. Actually, there's a good segue into this article.
Well, how coincidental.
Isn't that just coinky dinky?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Army's future tank may not be a tank. And we got a little 57-second video here. Let's see what Brigadier General Ross Kaufman, the Army's NGCV project lead. And let's hear what he has to say here, and then we'll dive into this. All right, come on. All right. Get the audio up here.
In 2023, we're going to make a decision of what the Abrams replacement will be, which is really exciting because it might not be a tank, right? It is decisive lethality. And what that decisive lethality is will be determined by academia, our science and technology community in the Army, as well as industry.
So are you starting now to have those discussions about what you think that looks like? And where else could...
Okay, we're going to stop here because I'm not sure who produced this video. So we'll give him about 10 seconds here. But yeah, he's going, might not be a tank. Well, what would it be? Maybe something that uses, directed energy. Maybe something that uses anti-gravity, scalar energy. Tesla type scalar energy. Could be any number of things. Let's see what else he has to say here.
Go if it's not a tank. What are some of the thoughts or ideas out there?
Okay, so I've heard everything from a ray gun to a Star Wars-like four-legged creature that shoots lasers. But the reality is everything's on the table. So we just can't. We have to get away from these paradigms that we've created that decisive lethality must come from a tank. It may be a tank in the end, and that'd be great, but we need choices for our soldiers so we can really move into a position of lethal advantage over the enemy.
All right, well, let's see what the article says. The Army's future tank may not be a tank. Brigadier General Ross Kaufman, who is in charge of combat vehicle modernization, told Defense News in an interview at the Association of the U.S. Army's annual show. While the M1 Abrams tank is still has life in it yet, the Army is starting to begin the thinking and planning process for a future tank, which is really exciting because it might not be a tank, Kaufman said. It is decisive lethality, and what that decisive lethality is will be determined by academia, our science and technology community within the Army and the industry. The Army will choose a path in 2023 on how it plans to replace the Abrams, and some of the ideas cropping up in the discussion have been everything from a ray gun to a Star Wars-like four-legged creature that shoots lasers, Kaufman said. But the reality is that everything is on the table. And basically, okay, the rest of this article looks like, Kaufman is spearheading that effort along with some more near-term plans to replace the Bradley fighting vehicle with an optionally manned fighting vehicle and bring online the Army's Armored Multi-Purpose Vehicle, the AMPV, and a light tank called the Mobile Protected Firepower, MPF system. The One Star is in charge of the Next Generation Combat Vehicle Cross-Functional Team housed under the Army Futures Command, tasked to modernize the force. Wonder if President Trump had anything to do with that.
Just possibly.
While the Bradley has a need for relatively immediate replacement because of its power limitations that simply prevent it from being able to accommodate effective upgrades, the Abrams is going through an upgrade program now. The Army began accepting the M1A2 System Enhancement Package version 3, or M1A2 SEP V3.
Yeah.
Leave it to the Army. Let's just tack on a few more letters and numbers, okay?
Comma, one each.
Yeah. From General Dynamics Land Systems a year ago, the service expects to begin fielding the version in fiscal year 2020. The main intent of the upgrade is to buy back size, weight, and power lost during the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, as the Army focused on protective measures for the tank. The upgrade also includes a modernized architecture. The modernized architecture allows for the inclusion of an Ethernet connection so that you can plug in your iPhone and listen to the Doobie Brothers while you're blasting the crap out of everybody else. Then enhances processing within the tank to accommodate an updated fire control system that will allow users to engage targets more quickly. I can just, Jesus is just all right with me. Boom, 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 boom. Jesus is just all right. Oh yeah. Boom, boom, boom.
This kind of dovetails with that fire control system for small arms that we were talking about on straight shooting this morning.
Yeah. The Army is also installing an ammunition data link that will allow the tank itself to talk to the new smart rounds it is fielding in order to optimize the effect of those rounds. The variant rolling off the production line essentially primes the pump for the integration of future technology and improved lethality because of the new architecture and restoration of power to the vehicle. The next round of upgrades, the M1A2 SEP version 4, V4, will fall in on the tail end of M1A2 SEP verse 3 production that is focused. You're just laughing too much on this.
Well, that's really.
Yeah, I know.
Do they really need to do that? Yeah, yeah.
They're saving ink. They're saving ink.
Yeah,
all right.
They're acronyms, but
okay.
You know.
All right. Production that is focused on increasing lethality of the system. The Army just awarded GDLS a contract over a year ago to develop the M1A2 SEP version 4. The service will make production decisions in fiscal year 2023, and hopes to field to the 1st Brigade in 2025. The keystone technology is the incorporation of the 3rd generation forward-looking infrared FLIR camera system.
Yeah. Developed by a little outfit in Wilsonville, Oregon, I believe.
Interesting. So anyway, there you go. You know, the Army is working on some advanced technologies there, and you know, we've seen quite a bit of different things. TMC out there in the live chat, he's dropped a lot of different information for us. You know, in all of this neural experiment work that they've been doing. And it's really kind of fascinating.
Mind control.
Well, mind control, neural interface.
To think something and have it actually, you know, appear in physical space.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like what I was just describing.
Now this other one that I have here, again, well, and we're talking about neural interfaces and things like that. This little patent here is kind of interesting as well. Let me put this one up on the screen.
Well, could I make a comment about the tank thing?
Oh, sure.
In just plain old everyday scare the crap out of the bad guys language, kind of hard to beat an M1A1 Abrams. I mean, you see one of those things lumbering at you at
Now, are you talking the SEPVER 1 or the SEPVER 2? Now, be specific here. You are the machinist here, you know.
Well, they all. I'm pretty sure they're all just about as scary as the last version. You see one of those things coming at you at 75 miles an hour.
I was just going to ask you. I know the speed on those things is incredible.
It is.
Can they do 75?
They can do 75 over flat land.
On flat land, and they can do upwards of 50 on some pretty crappy terrain.
Some pretty rough terrain, but 75 on flat land. And you see one of those things, coming at you at freeway speed. I think, boy, I tell you, I wouldn't want to get in the path of one of them.
No. Those things are incredible beasts. So you ready for this other article here?
Absolutely.
All right.
A little warm today.
Yeah, well, it got up to all of, I think about 83 here today, but it was windy as heck, so it didn't get a chance to really warm things up. The wind kept things moving through.
Yeah, it was up to 89 today here, which is a little lower than it has been the last couple of days, but it was plenty warm.
Now, this little piece of technology here is kind of interesting. Motorola patents e-tattoo that can read your thoughts by listening to unvocalized words in your throat. Ooh.
What?
Yeah, look at this. This little e-tattoo. It looks more like some kind of a plastic film that's been... They might be just showing it here for the picture, but anyway, imagine trying to patent the smartphone, or for that matter, the tattoo. Any company that could swing that could probably also patent the fork and knife. Incredibly, a new application from Google-owned Motorola Mobility seeks a patent not for any particular utensil, but rather for setting the table. In other words, if you have an electronic smart tattoo and want to speak to your mobile communications device, you may soon be able to do it in spades, but you will have to do it Google style. Well, maybe they're not aware that Google is in big trouble right now when they wrote this article. However, it may not be Google much longer. But hold on for a minute. Is there a bit more to the whole concept than might first appear? The tattoo that they have in mind is actually one that will be emblazoned over your vocal cords to intercept subtle voice commands, perhaps even sub-vocal commands, or even fully internal whisperings that fail to pluck the vocal cords when not given full cerebral approval. One might even conclude that they are not just patenting device communications from a patch of smart skin, but communications from your soul.
Now, horse pucky. I'm serious. I mean, whoever wrote this is obviously looking to, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to dig right into your brain and pick out those things that even you don't know you're thinking.
Maybe so. Or maybe not. That's what it says here. It has been known for decades that when you speak to yourself in your inner voice, your brain still sends neural spike volleys to your vocal apparatus. Your vocal apparatus? Was that your vocal apparatus just coughing?
Yeah, but there was a train that just happened to blow its horn just at that very exact time. So it was augmented.
Well, I just I was just wondering if that was your vocal apparatus.
It was. It crawled into my throat, honest.
Your vocal apparatus.
Yes, it did.
You're not listening, are you?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay. There will be a test after this.
Yeah, a quiz later, right?
Okay. In a similar fashion to when you actually speak aloud, the main difference between the two is that the nervous action driving covert speech, as it is called, is subthreshold and does not generate the full muscle contraction. The same might also be said for imagining throwing a baseball. It is probably not possible to do so without simultaneously calling up and at least partially launching unamplified motor programs. Stated another way, your thoughts are your motor intentions, only they are not always recognizable as such if they are sufficiently abstracted. The actual patent speaks of picking up an auditory signal, in quotes, from the tattoo and converting it into a digital signal. The signals from the brain, carried by spikes on the hundreds of laryngeal,
Yes.
okay, I guess I get that from larynx
Mm-hmm.
and geal nerve fibers, okay? And other nerves modulating the vocal tract are already digital. They bear no real resemblance to an auditory signal at this point. After transformation in the numerous muscles that control the speech organs, they're not apparatus anymore. They're speech organs now. There is still no single signal that could be sent to a transducer to generate sound recognizable speech. Looking at an image of a smart tattoo pioneered by John Rogers, Illinois-based research lab, there seems to be all kinds of sensor goodies which can be built in to pick up various biologics. I don't know if the strain gauges could pick up an actual speech signal in the same way that a conventional microphone could, but they would certainly generate useful information. The built-in EMG and ECG electrodes would not pick up individual spikes, so to speak, but could certainly generate electrical records of muscle activity and perhaps eventually compound nerve potentials. Rogers helped to form a company, MC10, that hoped to commercialize this technology, and although he indicated that he was not involved in these recent ventures, they have joint development efforts with Motorola Mobility. There is already a device known as a throat microphone that has been used to record an auditory signal in noisy conditions, like, for example, the cockpit of a jet fighter. Developed along with the first pressure suit back in 1934, it used a direct contact microphone to pick up sound waves traveling through solid objects, such as the throat wall. Later so-called throat microphones, such as the Xbox 360 accessory, only use an open-air microphone. They do not really exclude background noise, nor have the ability to pick up unvoiced signals. What got some folks' attention recently, namely those over at Patently Apple, was a few peculiar statements in the patent regarding the recording of galvanic skin responses. These guys first heard about the e-skin tattoo from Regina Dugan, the former DARPA head who is now in charge of advanced research at Motorola. Their article notes that the e-tattoo would provide a nice way to do authentication, but the seemingly out-of-place inclusion of the lie detection talk certainly raises some questions. Covert voice activation of your device in a crowd would definitely be a nice feature. Instead of actually speaking to Siri or Google, now you could merely think your voice command. Detecting stress and other emotion could have some applicability too. Although who else really needs to know if you have a lump in your throat? Perhaps I have not read that many patents recently, but there certainly did seem to be an excess of wording and scope. Every wireless communications protocol I am familiar with was included in some form somewhere. Not only were there definitions for words like a and an, but also actual percentages associated with a list of words like about, approximately, essentially, and substantially. Clearly, this is one among several recent patents that we may all want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and keep as far away from as you can get.
Don't like that one, huh?
I don't like the idea of, I mean, really, they're just getting closer. First of all, let's take a look at Google. They literally are trying to patent the knife and fork. They're trying to lay claim to things that have already been invented. They've been doing this for decades now, ever since they were a glimmer in DARPA's eye. And yes, Google is as much a construction of DARPA as Facebook, as Twitter, as any one of these other outfits. Yes, they were funded by DARPA, and they continue to work for DARPA. They continue to work for the deep state. But not being the point. The point is that they have been attempting to and have been quite successful at. If you look back at the Google patents, they'll take something that has been in existence, that was built years and years ago, been in existence for a very long time, and they'll take they'll take it apart, reverse engineer it, and patent the components that have been there forever. Because nobody ever thought to patent the components. They were building a complete unit.
Mm-hmm.
And so Google gets in there, they take it apart, they maybe do a slight variation on it, enough for the 10% difference that they need in order to patent something. They'll do a slight variation on it that doesn't have any effect on the functioning of it, but has an effect on whether or not they consider it to be then newly patentable. And Google will patent it. And then eventually, because the new design is more functional than the old design, that is what replaces the old design. Even though the old design worked, the new design works a little bit better. Okay, now Google owns the patent on it. If they can, I guarantee you, they will try to patent the knife and fork. And then you'll be paying them royalties every time you sit down to dinner.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, think about it.
Yeah, no, I'm
No,
just.
I mean, this is what they've been doing for 20, 30 years now.
Yeah.
Ever since somebody came up with the whole Google idea and then started chipping away at the patent system, which, as we know, is controlled by Serco, a British company that is not American.
Well, here's the thing. Look at what's been going on. Even just this last article. Who's over there at Motorola? Where did she come from? DARPA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And didn't we just read something on DARPA here just recently? I know I had some stuff that I was looking at that was talking about DARPA and really what the whole DARPA program is about. It was all supposed to be this organization within the government that its whole purpose was to think tank high technology, the next step outside the box, way outside the box, and they rotate people through there in order to keep fresh ideas coming. And they war game it out, but from what I read, they're only a lot of the people that are there at DARPA are only there maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe a little bit longer if a project that they're working on has a lot of promise, and they're actively engaged in this project. But then what they do then is, like we've seen. They take these programs that they developed and they put them out there, and they set somebody up in the business of going full tilt on a project. Let's say a Facebook, a Google, an Amazon, and what they've done is they've in doing this, they've created the Eric Schmidts, the the Elon Musks, these multi-millionaires uh, who are advancing this technology. And then if you have, let's say a Hillary Clinton or a Barack Obama in office, and your desire is to take down our country and control the world for some evil entity, you can see where uh, uh, you can see where this all leads. And but what if you have people out there, and maybe not put it in the government's purview to be developing all of this stuff? What if you had people freed up so that they could actually invent on their own, and their inventions weren't for the total domination of the world, or to be the guy with the big stick on the block?
That's it. Weaponizable.
Yeah, maybe if it was a situation where people were actually working towards the betterment of mankind and making people's lives easier, because the end result of that is I think you'd find a much smaller tendency, a much less tendency for people to be, I'm gonna dominate the world.
Yeah.
And then if you didn't work for money, if we had a totally money-free society and people actually worked for the betterment of each other, service to others, in other words, instead of service to self, you could actually have a society that was advancing in technology, and at the same time not worried about being the richest man in the universe.
Well, let's take Tesla, for example. Tesla, his entire thrust was the research and to make this stuff available for everyone.
Yeah.
And I mean, he didn't care about money other than could it forward and move his
projects,
forward.
his projects and his research forward. Yeah.
Exactly right. That's the only thing that he worried about money about. Well, of course.
Well, how did they beat him? They beat him with their money, didn't they?
That's exactly right. Edison was taking the inventions of Tesla, claiming them for his own because Tesla was a little late on the patenting process occasionally because he was too busy, getting stuff done. And 90% of what Edison supposedly invented was technology stolen from Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Edison wanted all of our power to be direct current. He was absolutely adamant about direct current being the way of the future. Effectively, direct current is like what you've got in your car battery. It runs positive to negative. Well, Tesla proved that you can't transmit direct current for over a great distance without the input of a transformer what it would be a giant transformer every 10 miles or so, just to up the juice so that you could send it the next 10 miles. And it would be just even at the time when they were trying to think of ways that they could suck money out of people's pockets, they could not possibly have even created enough of a power grid with the money available to them, no matter how much money they took away from people. And so they couldn't possibly build that. So they went to Tesla technology, which was alternating current. He actually invented the car alternator. They kept the generators, the direct current generators, for generations. How many generations before we ever saw an alternator?
Let's see. Alternators started coming in, I think, in what, the 60s?
60s, maybe late 50s at the very earliest.
Yeah.
And Tesla had invented the alternator back in the very last part of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
He had put the idea of an alternator out and in the public, and had the designs for it. I mean, nearly identical, except in a few minor improvements in bearings and etc., but nearly identical to the alternator in your car right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At 120 years ago. And it took them what, 70 years, 60 years to actually put it into use in your cars? That alone should show us that they've controlled our technology to where we only get their cast-offs.
Yes. When they have developed, 2 generations ahead, 3 generations ahead, they hand it over to us. Isn't that nice of them?
Well, and that's what led me to, that was why it was so remarkable to me to drive by 2 major hydroelectric projects that in all of my experience, all my life, I've been around dams. My dad worked on the Chief Joseph Dam when I was a kid. I've been fascinated with the whole hydroelectric idea and how it's effectively, once they get it built, it's free energy. It's just, using the gravity and the power of water flowing, which it does. It flows downhill, and they create electricity with it. The only cost is maintenance on the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And to see 2 huge hydroelectric projects doing absolutely nothing in the way of creating electricity just kind of got to me when I'm thinking, I wonder if these, you see all these windmills across the landscape, hundreds of them, if not thousands. And the first thing you wonder, if you think in those terms, first thing you wonder is, are they even creating electricity, or are they just, bird killers? What are they doing there? Are they just, was it a boondoggle foisted upon us to cost us a bunch of money and put us into this subsidy hell that we got to pay for forever and ever? And they're not actually creating electricity, or if they are, they're not connected to anything. They're maybe sending it out Tesla style, and it's being picked up and transmitted to us from their end for free, from our end. Oh, look here, the cost of power just went up. Now you got to pay the electric company some more money.
I still can't figure out how the cost of a dam goes up.
Exactly.
Once it's built,
exactly.
The fuel that runs it, is a gift from the weather, and then they've managed to, and then they go, well, we have to kind of even it out because like the folks over on the East Coast that are using coal-fired energy plants and nuclear plants, they're paying a little bit more, and we got to make them feel good, so we got to charge you more, or some silly ass crap like that. We live in the Pacific Northwest where, yes, dead cat driving either direction from his place can see numerous hydroelectric projects.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, there's a small dam, 2 miles down here, another hydroelectric generator that you saw when we were at the river down there taking video of the falls right there in downtown Spokane. There's a generator right there. There's another one further up the river. There's another one a little bit further up the river from that. And then 9 miles out that way is another one. These are all smaller projects that are on the Spokane River, but then you get out on the Columbia River or the Pend Oreille River or the
Snake River,
the Snake,
yeah,
and the St. Joe. I mean, we've got hydroelectric projects all over the place here in the Pacific Northwest. And you know, yes, yeah, they do upgrade the turbines. They do upgrade the generators. There's a certain amount of maintenance that is necessary on the dams. Uh, but uh, you know, why am I not still paying the same price for my electricity that we were paying, you know, 30 years ago? You know, it's just uh, it's false inflation. It's just it's picking your pocket for everything that they can get.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't cost any more for them to create electricity today than it did yesterday or the day before or the day before, because it's all coming from natural gravitational force.
Yeah, not what you're talking about is, uh, yeah. It's just, you know, I get so damn sick and tired of you know, going through all of this. Oh, that's right. You know, today was a special day. You know what today was?
The third or the fourth?
The third.
Uh, hmm.
It was Smoke's older brothers and sisters' birthday today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Our first litter of puppies are just turned 4 years old today.
Oh.
So Riley and Ava and Belle, let's see, and Cruiser and Hunter, and let's see, let's see, is that all 5 of them? That's all 5.
Riley?
Did you meet Riley?
I think so. Seems to me I did. Seems that name sticks in my mind.
But yeah, I just got a text in from Riley's dad. He says, Riley had a wonderful birthday. Thanks again. 4 years old. Wow. And earlier I got from Ava, Ava's mom. And Ava, she lives just around the corner from my mom's house there. So yeah, I'm going to have to send Mikey you know, happy birthday to Riley.
That's very cool. Boston Smalley just sent me a video. I can't play it, unfortunately. It's a nice one. It's the title of it is "How to Convert a Washing Machine into a Water-Powered Generator, Making Enough Power to Live Off the Grid." I'm going to put it out there in live chat for you guys in case any of you live near a creek or have access to being near a creek. You can take this technology and make yourself a power generator that possibly would allow you not to have to, you know, here's an interesting thing, folks. If you create more power than you use and you're still hooked up to the grid, the power that you push back in to the power grid, they have to pay you for at the same rate you pay them. Now, very, very few people do it because not very few people have the ability to generate power on their own and put it back into the system. And it's really not cost effective to hook up an electric or a gas powered or diesel powered generator and create enough electricity so that you can just feed it back into the system, because then you're using gas, you got maintenance on your generator, all this other stuff. But if you happen to be in a situation where you can actually generate power and it doesn't cost you anything to do so, as in you create this washing machine motor powered generating system that fires up everything you need in your house, and you feed it back into the system, they have to pay you for it. That would be kind of, you know, poetic justice, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, that's what they're supposed to do. If you can, there's a system where if you're generating more and you can feed it back into the system without burping the system, they actually have to credit you on your bill.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder if that's why they keep coming up with these ideas of, hey, I know what we'll do. We'll just divide up your bill over the course of the entire year and just charge you a set amount each month. And that just averages everything out because that'll take that out of the equation entirely.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I'm sending happy birthday wishes between dogs.
Uh, I understand completely.
Well, we have
There for me too.
we have Riley and his owner, and we have Ava and her owner, and and I've got mom and dad and their little brother, and so they're saying, Riley's 4 years old, Ava's 4 years old today, happy birthday, blah blah blah. And I mean, it's really cool, and so I'm sending, mom and dad send their best, little brother too. And then, I'm sending to Riley that his sister Ava, which is his litter sister, is saying, wishing her brother happy birthday. So, hey, dogs have families too,
Yes, and they are family.
And they are family.
I don't know how I get along without Katie. Well, we are,
and it looks like Ava is standing next to her brand new summer pool, which for a golden retriever, all you need is a wading pool in the backyard, and they are they're happy. And and now we've got Riley sending his wishes back to his litter sister. Okay.
all right.
So
Am I the only one here that thinks this is getting a bit weird?
hey, family, that's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
It is. It's about family, and it's about we're complaining about all the bad things, but and these people would know, the folks that we're up against, could care less about family. They're all about money and power and greed and all this other crap.
Yeah. Family is a food source to them.
Yeah, to some, to some of them, it's pretty sick. What have you got? Some stuff that you've got you wanted to
No,
share tonight?
no, I was counting on you.
Okay, well then I got this one.
I'm certain I can find something real quick here.
Well, actually, this is one of the ones you sent me in a DM.
Then in that case, there you have it. Everything I've got, I send to you. Well, it's like, we work together. We kind of, it's not like I'm going to surprise you with something.
Oh. Let's see here.
This one looks, yeah.
Yeah.
This one's a good one.
Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Comcast, Instagram suffer devastating outages as Trump goes to war with big tech's malicious censorship and fraud. Now, this is a combination of big tech, high tech, and part of what we do on Hyperdrive is look at the technology and what they're doing with it, and some of the nefarious things they're doing with it as well, and how they're using it to control your ability to express yourself, free speech, and any number of other things that they might be doing here. So you want to pick this up and read it there?
Sure, absolutely. This came by way of Natural News. I sent it to you today, I believe it was, wasn't it?
Yes, just this afternoon.
So this is fresh and new, folks. It is no coincidence that 2 days after the Trump administration announced a massive DOJ antitrust investigation into Google, dozens of tech companies have been disrupted via sweeping internet outages that many are calling the quote internet kill switch. A lot of people were speculating on that possibly it was a test. And as a matter of fact, I saw a kind of a conglomerate grouping of the different outfits and the spike in the loss of service that happened at pretty much exactly the same time across all platforms. It was very interesting. Throughout the day today, Sunday, massive outages took down nearly all Google services, Gmail, Google, YouTube, Google Home, Google Hangouts, etc., and hard-hitting glitches hit all the following services, many of which are engaged in criminal activities that violate human rights and the freedom of speech in America. They include Gmail, Google services, YouTube, owned by Google, Facebook, built at the same time and by the same people as Google.
DARPA.
Excuse me?
DARPA.
DARPA, yes. Twitter, built at the same time and by the same people as Facebook and Google. Yeah, that would be DARPA again. Amazon and Amazon Web Services. When did they come into existence? Kind of coincidental time frame there. AT&T, T-Mobile, Comcast, Verizon, and Spectrum, all beneficiaries of the breakup of Ma Bell, if you'll recall. Apple Store and iCloud. Well, that one there, kind of an outlier because Apple has been kind of on their own path, but truly they kind of follow the same group too. The outages have affected literally millions of websites and e-commerce sites and demonstrate that all these tech companies have an Achilles heel, a common infrastructure that can be crippled and taken down in seconds. You guys all understand the reference to Achilles heel, correct? 2 days ago, the DOJ essentially declared war against Google, which is exactly the right move by announcing it had begun an antitrust investigation into Google's anti-competitive practices. This took place barely 2 weeks after the White House announced an effort to collect case studies from people and businesses all across America who have been censored, deplatformed, or economically sabotaged by Google and other tech giants. How many people in the Anon movement, how many people in our mission movement have you known whose channels have been removed, whose entire grouping of videos that they've posted on YouTube have been just taken down, disappeared, taken off completely? You know, how many people do you know? Like, I know hundreds at least who have had this happen to them, and they monetize to the extent that these things are, you know, this is how you make money. You know, Tracy Beans is one of them. She's never made any bones about it. She has always been alternative news journalist, and she makes her money off of her videos. She was taken down. She had a whole bunch of her monetized videos taken off the internet by YouTube because they didn't like what she was saying. And so, you know, a lot of people have gotten a financial hit from these people just because they don't care for the words.
They don't like what you say.
Exactly right. Which is absolutely against their mandate. And it is a mandate because they are in business in the United States of America. And by virtue of that, if not absolutely directly, they have tacitly agreed to the First Amendment. If they're going to operate in a country that relies on, and it's considered our absolute God-given right to speak however we intend to speak, then they have taken it upon themselves to adhere to the First Amendment, and they have waged war on the First Amendment ever since their inception. You are likely watching a high-stakes war being waged between big tech and President Trump. Yeah, guess who's going to win that one, folks? We, the people. Analysis. What you're actually watching may be the Trump administration firing a warning shot over the bow of Silicon Valley and its evil tech giants. The message is clear. If you continue to censor the human rights and free speech of conservatives and Christians, you will be taken down and denied access to the internet infrastructure. This is just the beginning of what's coming. I've publicly called for the arrest and prosecution of big tech CEOs like Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg, and Tim Cook. Tim Cook being the CEO of Apple, by the way. These organizations, Google, Apple, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, are openly engaged in massive, coordinated criminal fraud, election rigging, and treason against the United States of America. Absolutely, right on the money. These techno fascists are operating online cartels that suffocate the speech of conservatives, Christians, and Trump supporters. I don't know how much longer this goes. Would you like to take up from here?
I'll pick up a little bit of it here.
Cool.
These evil techno-fascists must be stopped. Their CEOs must be arrested, and their operations must be either radically reformed or completely dismantled and taken offline. It's time for all humans on planet Earth to demand the dismantling of big tech and end its crimes against humanity. The systematic censorship of speech for political purpose is a criminal act of war against the human race. These tech giants must be stopped the same way we once stopped Adolf Hitler. Declare war, then defeat the evil fascists using the full power of the military. It's time for Trump to call for the military police to locate and arrest the CEOs of the tech giants, then hold them for prosecutions under military law. Make no mistake, Zuckerberg, Dorsey, Piachi, Cook, and others are truly enemies of humanity and the enemies of freedom all around the world. It's time to remove them from power and restore human freedom on a global scale. And, they've got a couple of memes here, enemies of humanity. Then, we have Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, Pol Pot, Zhao Ding Dong. Then we have Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, Jeff Bezos, and Sundar Pichai, and Tim Cook. And again, wanted. Here you go. Yeah, these companies, and the problem is, again, these companies, these are all of these CEOs that were put into place by, government, a government agency, basically. DARPA set these people up. When you go in and you look at who these people are, you find out how they're connected to other deep state factions, deep state progenitors. And they did not get there by being great leaders, great innovators. They got there because somebody liked them along the way and gave them the opportunity to, hey man, we got this really great company. We need somebody to head it up. It's worth a lot of money. We'll pay you really good. All you got to do is just buy a lot of expensive cars, homes, and make it to a couple of conferences every now and then. Don't worry. What you're doing isn't within the Constitution, but we're going to kill the Constitution anyway eventually. And actually, you get to help in that, and we're going to pay you handsomely for it. So, yeah, it's a bunch of BS, and granted, I mean, I love this technology. I mean, look at this. I'm sitting here in my living room at my home. 15 steps over that way is a coffee maker and my refrigerator, and I can get a snack and I make some popcorn or whatever. Come back here, and I've got all of you folks out there, all 1,200 or however is listening to us tonight, and we're able to share articles and ideas. And I get instant feedback from like Tim Wagner, replace Google with VPNs, no censorship, and much more secure. Gitmo's open for business, says Craig G. And I get an instant feedback from you folks out there, you folks that matter. This is technology the way it should be used. All right. And think of what we could do with the systems that are actually, I mean, we're doing this on chewing gum and shoestrings, basically. And we have created something here, Pam and the volunteers have created something here that is absolutely amazing. And look at what's happening. We are out there giving the mainstream news a run for their money at a fraction of the cost.
We're beating them hands down everywhere.
All right.
We're putting real news out where they're putting fake crap out.
And we're real people. I mean, Dead Cat there, he's just as natural. Me, I did put on my Space Force shirt tonight.
Speaking of,
Speaking of,
I have Sassy Q, when I was up there this weekend, doing stuff in her backyard.
oh, she mounted your patch.
She mounted the patch here, and
Ah ha ha.
yes. And
Now
she
is
did exactly the way it was supposed to, 3 fingers down from the epaulette.
okay.
Yep. Is that cool or what?
Very cool.
Yep. That's
How
our
come you-
sis that did that.
How come you're not wearing it?
Because it's hotter than hell.
Well,
I could turn the air conditioner on,
well,
or I could open the door and let the crickets sing us, a lullaby or two.
well, let's see. Wasn't it you the other day that? Do we need to get the instruction sheet out for the air conditioner?
No, that wasn't me. That was Sassy Q and Sherpanon. They were putting the air conditioner in the wall there, and they actually got it done without any input on my part.
Now wait a minute. Wasn't it you that sat there for the longest time and you didn't actually turn it on cool? You just had it on fan
Oh,
or
that
something?
stupid thing! Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, I switched it over and it didn't. I thought I clicked it over to the next step on the dial there, and it was on just fan, and it was getting hotter than hell in here. I'm thinking, I'm looking at the inside thermometer, it says 87. So wait a minute, I got the air conditioner running. I went and looked, and the air conditioner was on fan, sucking heat from in the outside into the room. So yeah, no, yep. My bad. My bad. Yeah. It was a faulty switching mechanism in here.
All right. Well, let's see. What else do we have here in our stack of stuff here tonight?
That was a pretty good one, actually. I like
Yeah.
that one. Let me see.
Oh, I've got this list here. This is kind of an interesting list. It's a list of patents. Now, it might not sound too exciting, but we could go down this list and kind of get an idea of what some of these crazy inventors are thinking about.
The good ones or the bad ones?
You tell me. I mean, I'll tell you what, before we do that, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee and I'll be right back.
Yes, mill about smartly. Yeah. Oh, well, gee, I just happened upon some pretty interesting stuff here. What would happen if okay, let's go with this one. I have an article here from George Filer. You guys familiar with George Filer? I'm waiting for it to open up here. George Filer is a UFO investigator. Major George Filer, friend of Frank Chile. And we have been in contact with him. He hasn't got back to us yet about coming on the show, but he has the Filer files, and I'll get this out to you in a link form after this. But this is interesting, and it came out today. Actually, June 3rd, 2019. Filer's Files. Let me get it up on the screen for you. And I think Thumper will put up with this. I hope he does. I hope he doesn't get upset about this whole thing, but this is right up our alley here. Let me get it up bigger for everybody to see. All right, so there we go. I'm Del. By the way, are you back? I hear him rooting around there. Okay, Filer's Files 23/2019. Hypersonic UFOs spotted by Navy pilots. It's very interesting that these revelations are coming out that these pilots are actually talking about. They've actually been allowed to discuss this stuff out in public because they've been keeping it secret. They've been sworn to secrecy and kept from discussing this stuff in the public until, well, recently. And we were told and have had several guests on that have been telling us, Michael Salla for one, Frank Chili for another, and Peter Kling for another, that disclosure is coming, and it's coming in, fairly rapidly. Well, all of a sudden, Navy pilots are allowed to speak about what they're seeing on their maneuvers. So, to get into the article itself, Filer's Files number 23, 2019, from today, actually from yesterday, 6/3/19. In special reports, this week's files cover Lord Hill Norton, tireless UFO advocate, Chinese releasing photos of structures on the moon, hypersonic UFOs spotted by Navy pilots, letter from Colonel Steve Wilson, the day the Earth stood still, one more thing about the future with Jack Sarfati, strange craft, and Philadelphia UFO conference. Okay, let's dive into this. This is probably going to be fairly long, and I don't know if Thumper, are you on board with this yet?
Yeah, I'm fine with this.
Okay, yeah, this is
Obviously, my idea wasn't good enough.
No, I don't.
Just giving you shit, man. I heard what you said when I walked away.
This actually started out as a fill-in idea because I didn't want to walk over the top of your plan there, but
this is cool.
Okay.
This is cool. And hopefully we can get this guy on as a guest here one of these days.
I know it, and I've called him several times. He hadn't gotten back to me yet. Frank Chili has reached out to him, and he still hasn't contacted us yet with any kind of itinerary that we can deal with. But if you think about it, I'm sure Frank told him there are hours of operation for our hyperdrive show, and that may be an issue right there because for him, he's on the East Coast, and it's like middle of the night, So, and this is a picture of the guy, so he's kind of our age, and probably likes his sleep. I would think so. All right, then.
Sleep is overrated.
Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much. Unidentified aerial phenomena sightings were reported over Arizona, California, Florida, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Texas, Virginia, and Washington, and probably every other state, but they haven't reported it yet. Unidentified aerial phenomena sightings were reported over Australia, Canada, Greece, Italy, Korea, New Zealand, South Africa, and England in the United Kingdom. Giant Tic Tac and other hypersonic UFOs spotted by Navy pilots. And I watched a video about those Tic Tacs. They are a trip. Did you watch that video?
Which one?
The Tic Tac video.
No, I didn't.
They're effectively F-18 size. They look like capsules, like the kind that you swallow, like vitamin capsules or pills. They look like that, only they're the size of an F-18.
Okay.
45, 48, 50 feet long, something like that. And they move around like our TR-3B moves. It really is amazing. And they fly into the water, out of the water. They do all, if you haven't seen the video, I'll get the video for you. We can't play it here because it's a long video, belongs to somebody else. I guess we could do it in 27-second chunks, but unidentified aerial phenomena sightings. Okay, other hypersonic UFOs spotted by name. All right, Filer Research Institute feels the scientific study of UFOs is for the benefit of mankind and is an important endeavor. The U.S. Air Force investigated UFOs publicly for more than 20 years under Project Blue Book, and I continue this advanced research. I believe the God of the universe has spread life throughout the cosmos, and aliens and their UFOs are visiting us in ever increasing numbers. This is the guy right here, Major George A. Filer III, U.S. Air Force, retired, New Jersey State Director, MUFON Eastern Region Director, National UFO Center, now receiving 3 million hits a month. Okay, and here's information. I'll get this out to you in link form when we get done with the read here. Lord Hill Norton, tireless UFO advocate at the House of Lords. Lord Hill Norton, and it gives a little bit of background on him. Quote, the evidence that there are objects which have been seen in our atmosphere and even on terra firma that cannot be accounted for either as man-made objects or as any physical force or effect known to our scientists seems to me to be overwhelming. A very large number of sightings have been vouched for by persons whose credentials seem to me unimpeachable. It is striking that so many have been trained observers, such as police officers and airline or military pilots. Their observations have, in many instances, been supported either by technical means or such as radar, or even more convincingly, by interference with electrical apparatus of one sort or another. Here's the Chinese releasing photos of structures on the moon. It's a picture. Looks to me like they've got some buildings going on down there, don't they? Look at that.
Quite possibly, yes.
That certainly doesn't. That looks like, I don't know, maybe a power plant of some sort or some. Here's the here. Oh, hey, look, here's the theater. The domes of the theater, and here's the here's a fuel tank out here, and here's looks pretty human made to me. China is in the past. Okay, China is the past as released photos of spaceships or UFOs flying over the moon. I'm not sure. That's a pretty clunky sentence. I'm not sure where he was going with that, but the craft appear and disappear on the event horizon of the moon, often at the lower left outer edges of the moon. These UFOs are orbiting the moon and coming and going from bases there and appear to be conducting mining operations. Ooh, that looks interesting right there. That's on the moon's surface. That certainly doesn't look like anything that would happen from asteroid hits or et cetera, does it?
Either that or it's a really big virus.
It could be.
Yeah.
That could be. And a mean one at that.
A moon-based virus.
Moon virus.
I hear they're very, very virulent.
Yeah, and durable, since they live in what, very little gravity and no air. So, there's that. Quote, reports indicate China is releasing high-res images taken by the Chang'e 2 moon orbiter, which clearly show buildings and structures on the moon's surface. A few images are on the Chinese Army website. China and the U.S. are moving toward full disclosure of the extraterrestrial reality. President Trump has allegedly given permission to slowly release UFO data. China will be releasing all the moon data and images from the Chang'e 2 in the coming months. Let's hope this is the beginning of a new era, close quote. It will be interesting to see if the news media picks up the news. Now, that's not a very clear picture. Seems like they could get a better picture than that, doesn't it? Chinese lunar images of building complexes.
Well, I got to tell you, when we can get pictures of nebulas, way out in the cosmos, and we can't get a clear picture of the moon,
they're doing it wrong.
Somebody needs to go back to photography school.
That's right. Yes. Okay. China has satellites over the moon. In addition, China has landed the Chang'e 3 lander and launched the U-2 Rabbit rover. The Chinese government is slowly releasing lunar images that confirm structures and tall towers on the moon. The images are on the official Chinese Army website, and they will likely show the world the U.S. has kept secret alien capabilities. Would you like to take over the read here?
Yeah, sure. Where did you finish
Several.
flipping around there?
Yeah, several
Okay,
is
at
the
several.
first line.
All right, hang on a second.
Is
Can
my
you make-
share clear, by the way?
Yeah, but can you make it a little larger there?
Yes, I will.
All right.
I enlarged a couple of times, but I didn't quite make it as big as it could be. So let me get back to, there we are. Top line.
Okay. Several NASA personnel report NASA has known for some time about an extraterrestrial presence on the moon and Mars, and the ancient structures and artifacts that they've left behind. They've left behind? Images and video footage from the lunar and Martian spacecraft reveal tantalizing evidence of unusual structural and vehicular objects on and around other worlds. A strange, unidentified craft was seen by both Apollo 10 and 11. The ISS and many shuttle missions filmed sharp turning and velocity changing UFOs.
And ISS is International Space Station, by the way.
Yes. Chinese TV imagery shows a pyramid-like structure and domes indicating the aliens are likely monitoring Earth. Vast areas of the moon appear to have been kind of remodeled on the surface with a Type 2 ancient civilization likely far in advance of ours. It appears mining operations are being conducted and ships are carrying the minerals to other destinations. Large amounts of hydrogen-3 on the moon is likely being used to power the structures. Many of the structures appear to be ancient ruins. That quite possibly is an artist's conception, I guess.
It actually says it's a photo, but I don't know.
Photo on Chinese Army website may not be on the moon. Oh, how interesting. Similar structures on Mars. Would you quit flipping around that mouse, please?
Okay.
Jeez, it's like a fly flying around in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my live feed. I get to do with it what I want to.
Well, give me the link then. I'll put it up.
All right.
Similar structures on Mars indicate an advanced civilization once existed throughout the solar system and even on Earth. The advanced civilization could have towed the moon to its present position and settled on Earth, creating humans in their image, just as we are told in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The moon is a miracle in itself in that it allows the seasons to occur. The moon is in exactly the right location and size to cover the sun in an eclipse. Its position is 1,000,000 to 1 to be in the correct place. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun. The moon could be an artificial satellite placed in position by ancient aliens. Measurements suggest the moon is hollow, and all craters from asteroids penetrate to some depth. The launch vehicle was sent to the moon's surface, and the moon vibrated and rang like a bell for 3 hours. 2 Russian scientists. The moon is a spaceship pulled into this perfect orbit. Now, we've talked about the moon numerous times, and yes, the moon, its placement, the idea that it always, the same side of the moon always faces Earth. How weird is that? I mean, it does rotate, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
Okay.
But it rotates in conjunction with the rotation of the Earth. So we always see the same side, yes.
That is just weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of goes against our view of cosmology, doesn't it?
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In 2014 and 2015, pilots with the U.S. Navy reported multiple UFO sightings during training maneuvers flying from the aircraft carrier Nimitz. These sightings have continued between 2014 and 2015. Seasoned pilots in the U.S. Navy experienced a number of harrowing encounters with UFOs during training missions in the U.S. While pilots were mid-flight, their aircraft cameras and radar detected seemingly impossible objects flying at hypersonic speeds at altitudes up to 30,000 feet, 9,144 meters. These mysterious UFOs did so with no visible means of propulsion, the New York Times reported on May 26th. However, none of the pilots suggest that these perplexing UFOs represent an extraterrestrial invasion, according to the Times, which previously wrote about Navy pilots encountering UFOs in 2004. In total, 6 pilots who were stationed on the aircraft carrier Roosevelt between 2014 and 2015 told the Times about spotting UFOs during flights along the southeastern coast of the U.S., extending from Virginia to Florida. And I'm going to get a drink of water here in just a second. Two of the pilots who spoke with the Times about the inexplicable sightings share their stories in the new History Channel documentary series, Unidentified: Inside America's UFO Investigation, premiering May 31st. And a couple of people mentioned that the other day.
Yeah, actually, it was today they mentioned it.
I
And
mentioned
they
it
said
today.
that, what's his name? Podesta.
Yeah, Podesta was somewhat involved with this.
He's the narrator.
Yeah.
Now, if I had a TV, I wouldn't be watching it.
Video.
That's got that guy involved in it.
Yeah, you got to wonder, huh?
Mhm.
Video of 2 aerial encounters appears in the series, showing clips of UFOs. One tiny speck and one large dark blob. These UFOs later came to be known respectively as Go Fast and Gimbal. It appears President Trump has given permission to the military to announce that the aliens and their craft are here. We can expect a slow revealing of the truth to allow the public to accept and absorb the information that you readers already know. Key members of the military, intelligence, and aviation personnel are contacting the National UFO Center with key data indicating most of the visitors are friendly and helping us with advanced technologies. This help has been going on for thousands of years in helping build pyramids, educating people, and developing advanced civilizations. Pyramids all over the world are similar and appear to be connected perhaps as a communication system or are being used to power UFOs. Most pyramids have electromagnetic energy that is amplified by the shape of the pyramid and taken from the natural energy in the earth and around them. Hundreds of pyramids are being located in China, Mexico, Peru, Egypt, and other places. Dozens of aliens are visiting Earth, indicating we are some kind of experiment to determine if we will destroy ourselves or become an asset in the universe. And it goes on here. Steve Wilson writes, I worked under the MAJI chain of command, which is the Majestic chain of command, otherwise known as MJ-12. The MJ-12 index is all I know to be true, whereas the document index is a conglomeration of things so people could get the most documents floating around the web in one spot. Incidentally, when Bob Lazar was interviewed several years ago for Michael Lindemann's 6 Viewpoints book, he mentioned that his supervisor wore a MAJI badge, and that's Majestic. Supervisors there must have a Cosmic Q level 10 clearance. I have pretty amazing pictures of alien craft, and our hope is to capture one before the authorities can get there and hide it. I'm fighting cancer, so I'll leave my photos to the person I trust most in this world and will receive the location of the photos and documents I have in the event of my death. Don't ask who the person is. I do agree we won't ever know the truth from our government, although I saw a plan once to stage a landing of our benevolent brothers from space. Then they could say our benefactors have arrived and everyone would soon forget the rest. It was to be staged tentatively at White Sands, New Mexico on August 28th, 1998, but was never put into effect. Of all the crashes I was at, there was strong evidence that the aliens are from other galaxies. 2 of those were questionable about coming from other dimensions. Jacques Vallée thinks they've been with us throughout our history, and he may be correct. Maybe the very highest in MAJI, or majestic, might know why they are here. And there is a reptoid individual. I sure don't think, I sure don't, but wouldn't trust a gray or reptoid out of my sight, no matter how much others voice their opinion about how benevolent they think they are. Their ability to make a person think what they want them to is uncanny. It doesn't matter what Vallée believes. Our government knows they have been coming here for hundreds of thousands of years. The strongest evidence is the frozen body of a blonde, 7-foot-tall woman, hand in hand with a Neanderthal man found in the ice caves in France. Somehow, they were frozen in mid-stride. The caves were closed for a year or 2 while they removed them. Similar ancient blondes have been found near 100 ancient pyramids in China. Another is 30,000-year-old skeleton of a gray found in Colorado. This was hushed up and the skeleton removed. There seems to be over 100 different races of extraterrestrials currently operating on this planet. Some are conducting medical experiments, military maneuvers, and cultural observations. Some are working closely with our aviation companies and have provided advanced technology. Some have much darker, malevolent intent and have been responsible for controlling our species for thousands of years. It is tough to know why they are here. You want to pick it up there?
Yes. Is there a friendly universal alliance of planets with various alien species like those depicted here? What are their purpose and their goal? Are they taking action to stabilize the Earth? They appear to be taking samples of surface flora and fauna into great underground halls of remembrance to replenish and repopulate the upper world once a possible great purification begins. Will they step in to help humanity and rescue us in time, or are we on our own against forces we cannot hope to win? They do claim it will be a wonderful world when they take over. Thanks to Colonel Steve Wilson. Note, Steve is no longer in communication with me and allegedly passed away, but appears to have inside information. Now, this one here, I think what we're going to get is some of the stuff that Frank Chili told us about. This is The Day the Earth Stood Still. If you guys saw that movie in 1953, this is Michael Rennie. He is Klaatu, I believe is his name. And this is Gort, G-O-R-T, the robot. While in my Air Force uniform, I sat next to Michael Rennie on a flight from LA to Chicago. He told me he'd spent much of his career doing movies for the Air Force. He was from Britain and trained as a pilot in the Western U.S. during the war. He played Klaatu in the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. He implied the military helped produce the film. The government felt they needed to educate the public in case they were unable to keep the UFO secret. Gort was a robot, and Michael Rennie played Klaatu, the extraterrestrial. In the movie, Klaatu corrects the work of Professor Barnhart, showing his otherworldly brilliance in association with destructive power that could threaten the existence of the world. The movie was ranked number 5 on the American Film Institute's list of the 10 greatest sci-fi films in 2008. This was the first big budget sci-fi feature film to be released by a major American studio after the war. 20th Century Fox studio chief was Daryl F. Zanuck, and Robert Wise was the movie's director. The movie was first post-war large-budget science fiction film. It was a serious, high-minded exploration of mid-20th century suspicion and paranoia, combined with a philosophical overview of humanity's coming place in the larger universe. In the film, Klaatu states, quote, "I am leaving soon and you will forgive me if I speak bluntly. The universe grows smaller every day and the threat of aggression by any group anywhere can no longer be tolerated. There must be security for all or no one is secure. Now, this does not mean giving up any freedom except the freedom to act irresponsibly. Your ancestors knew this when they made laws to govern themselves and hired policemen to enforce them. We of the other planets have long accepted this principle. We have an organization for the mutual protection of all planets and for the complete elimination of aggression. The test of any such higher authority is, of course, the police force that supports it. For our policemen, we created a race of robots. Their function is to patrol the planets in spaceships like this one and preserve the peace. In matters of aggression, we have given them absolute power over us. This power cannot be revoked. At the first sign of violence, they act automatically against the aggressor. The penalty for provoking their action is too terrible to risk. The result is we live in peace, without arms or armies, secure in the knowledge that we are free from aggression and war." Okay, this is a scene from the movie, right here. I'll read on, and I hope it tells us what I think, but by the time we get done with this particular section, if it doesn't, I will reveal to you once again what Frank Shilley told us when he was on the channel.
By the way,
Huh?
by the way,
Yes?
in what he was saying there, did that strike anything as you were reading that? Did anything kind of come to mind there? Something that we've been talking about just in the last couple of days.
Well, several things, and a couple of them were fairly alarming. One of them being turning over the policeman operation to a race of robots. That's a little bit nerve-wracking, considering what we have seen so far with the intent of the deep state to push AI on us.
Artificial intelligence, yes.
Yes, that's disturbing. But if in fact they could, and Isaac Asimov, one of the famous science fiction authors, who's actually a scientist, came up with the 3 laws of robotics, the major one being that no robot could ever act against a human or allow a human to be acted against. So that's one of the laws of the 3 laws of robotics. I guess out there in YouTube, you guys could look that up. Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. It's a very interesting read. But I find the whole idea of handing over the enforcement of responsibility to an outside force, in my opinion, is abdication of the responsibility to take it upon yourself to control your own actions, which is effectively self-governance.
Yeah.
So sovereignty goes out the window if you give some power to control over to something else. Grow up would be what I read out of this. Grow up so that this isn't necessary.
Yes.
Keep your honor clean. So, yeah, did you have an additional comment on that?
No, that's it. I'm good.
Okay, the humanoid alien protagonist of the film, Klaatu, played by Michael Rennie, instructs Helen Benson, Patricia Neal, that if any harm befalls him, she must speak to the robot to save the Earth. Klaatu, I'm worried about Gort. I'm afraid of what he might do if anything should happen to me. Helen says, Gort, but he's a robot. Without you, what could he do? Klaatu, there's no limit to what he could do. He could destroy the Earth. You must tell Gort, Klaatu Barada Nikto. There are parallels between Klaatu and Jesus Christ. Klaatu comes from another world and chooses the name of Mr. Carpenter, the occupation of Jesus Christ. He came to warn about the destruction Earth is going to face if they don't believe him and his words. Jesus Christ said to the people that they will face destruction if they don't believe in him and in his words, like Jesus prophesying about the destruction of Jerusalem. Okay, now they did not go into what Frank Chili revealed to us during the course of his interview with us, his 3 hours, nearly 3 hours he spent with us. He told us that according to the people he spoke to, and they were in the know on this, that the actual footage of the saucer landing in Washington, D.C., in the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, was actually footage taken from the landing of the saucer that they made the movie about. That it was actual footage of a UFO landing.
Okay, but there is a supposedly it's been scrubbed. Nobody is allowed to talk about it or anything. Where an alien spacecraft actually supposedly landed, like on the White House lawn or something like that.
Exactly right, and this is what the video was taken from.
And what he said was, the spacecraft as it was coming into Earth's orbit, as you will see in the beginning of the movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still. They show the spacecraft approaching Earth, and according to Frank Chili, that is actual footage that was taken of the craft arriving, of an alien craft arriving at Earth.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And of course, we haven't had anybody come to refute that. I like to think it's true. I'm not saying that it is absolutely true. I'm saying that this is what people have been told. We don't have empirical proof of it, but nonetheless, I like the idea of it being true. I like the fact that they have been, over the course of decades, if not centuries, they've been attempting to disclose the alien presence in our civilizations. And I'm ready. I'm ready. And I do not see this in any way negating or speaking in any way against God, Christ. If anything, it enhances the image of God's power, because he made a huge, ever expanding universe. Ever expanding. This is, that he chose to breathe the essence of life into humans, into us, is beyond my imagination, beyond my, it catches in my heart that we have been chosen to get this, and that we do have the choice that, and I believe the words, whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And I believe Jesus's statement that no one comes unto the Father but by me, I think has an entirely different meaning than what people have taken it to mean. It's not get down on your knees and act in this way and give, it's not that. It's love unconditionally. Raise your level, raise your awareness, get up to where Jesus recognizes that you're at the point where he can open the door for you. And he will. That's us growing up, folks. That's us taking on the responsibility that will allow us into the universal civilization. Okay, enough preaching from me. One more thing about the future from Jack Sarfati, the Book of the Soul. Robert Adnall wrote a subset of people who have had out-of-body experiences during meditation, sleep, or near-death experiences. Everybody out there who's ever had an out-of-body experience, raise your hand. Okay. As well as claim as people who claim to have some sort of memory of the reality between death and birth during reincarnation cycles, describe being in a timeless state or outside of time. This concept has entered some New Age discourse, which is probably why it doesn't get nearly the attention that it should deserve. But, you know, because New Age, oh, yeah, it must be, you know, it's all hooey, you know, but no. And is often called things like the eternal present. Everything actually happens at once, but from inside a 3+1 dimensional set of dimensions. Time is usually experienced linearly. One moment leads to the next moment, leads to the next. So in a sense, people do seem to remember, quote unquote, in a somewhat similar manner to remembering the past. This would be consistent with theories that include retrocausation alongside causation as a part of physics, which if you guys understand what retrocausation, well, a quick explanation would be that the past is being created at the same rate and in exactly the same way as the future. Some attempts to do hypnotic progression of people to future lives instead of regression to past lives suggest multiple timelines with different groups of people going to different futures. 1980, Helen Wambach decided to experiment with progressing subjects forward into the future rather than regressing them into the past. And here's a link to that. I'm not going to go to the link. I'm going to turn this over to you to read for a while there, Thumper. What do you think?
Where are you at?
This, of course.
Okay. This, of course, is different from nuts and bolts vehicles using warp, bubble, or wormhole metrics to travel into their past light cones. What the hell did I just read? Okay. Various types of time travel
See if we can unpack that.
might theoretically be possible. A particular interest from that website, and also a slight suggestion that timelines might reconverge, a bit like the idea of time-symmetric pilot waves, with both causality and retrocausality branching and recombining.
I don't want to. I am loath to interrupt you here, but I wanted to point out. Do you remember what I believe it was Peter Kling that was talking to us about how if in fact, and he thinks that it's probably likely and probably has already happened, if in fact we can go back to past occurrences or occurrences on our timeline and change various things, that it is self-repairing. In other words, our timeline continues on even if something has changed in the past, because other things will happen, and this is what's being referred to as the Mandela effect.
Right.
It's a repair in the disturbance in the timeline.
Right.
So you might remember something slightly different than it actually happened, but it's a necessary stitching up, if you will, of the slip that you made in the time. Kind of a weird way of putting it, but yeah.
Despite the small percentages that progressed rather than regressed, and the fact that a small portion of the progression data sheets were too incomplete to form part of a proper analysis, Snow was left with a total of nearly 400 progressions to study. As Wambach had previously in her regression studies, he commenced with an analysis of future life sex, which more or less showed 50-50 split between male and female in both future periods, despite there being, as usual, a far greater proportion of currently female subjects in the groups. He is right to argue that this is again indicative of the validity of the experiences. Remember that the group subjects were not in therapy, so if we can infer they were more likely in progressive stage then they would be less likely to favor one sex over their over another for their incarnations. Interestingly, about 5% of subjects reported they were androgynous or sexless in 2100, with this figure rising to 6% in 2300, a factor that is clearly absent from past life regressions. By asking how old subjects were when they died in their future lives, he also established that although there were some significant individual and collective extensions, average lifespans in both periods seem to be more or less consistent with today. But by far the most interesting aspect of Snow's analysis was the emergence of different types of life experience that were broadly speaking common to both future periods. He categorized these to type 1, which involved living in a traveling spaceship, a space station, or a colony on another planet. Type 2, which involved living in spiritually evolved New Age communities in predominantly mountain or coastal environments on Earth. Type 3, which involved living in usually enclosed, high technology city environments on Earth. And type 4, which involved living a relatively backward life, usually in small rustic communities on Earth. The totals for each type in each period are shown in the table, and I will summarize a few of Snow's more pertinent findings about each. If we start with the progressions to 2100 or thereabouts, as we might expect, type 2 experiences seem to be by far the most pleasant and fulfilling. Part of their spiritual development was to coordinate their limited use of technology with their natural environment, there being a suggestion that they were able to maintain their pleasant habitats by their spiritual approach, while many other parts of the planet remained virtually uninhabitable. Their diet consisted of natural fruits and vegetables, and their average lifespan had increased to over 90 years of age. Few reported that they used telepathy to communicate, and that they could vacate their bodies if they chose once their life tasks were completed. The type 4s also experienced largely pleasant and uncomplicated lives, but their distinguishing factor was the absence of any spiritual emphasis, an almost complete lack of technology, and a reversion to relatively backward 19th century style living in small communities, usually in a rural or small town environment, but occasionally in ruined cities. So here you have the chart here, 2100 or 2300. Okay, and the numbers in the percentages. Okay, space, living in space, 35. Let's see. Now they say 35 at 26%.
Yeah, what they're looking at is when they progressed into the 2100 and then progressed to 2300. And this is the percentages that they found in those particular categories.
Okay.
This is statistical, and it's kind of misleading in ways, as far as I can tell. But it is kind of interesting, and it doesn't include the pill that gets you back to 32 to 34 years old. So I don't know.
Well, discernment.
Yeah. I'll keep that one out there for a few future discernment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and scroll up there.
Okay.
The type 1 and 3 experiences were linked in as much as high technology cities on Earth still acted as the home base for many of the space travelers. Both types indicated that contact and cooperation with extraterrestrials was commonplace. And although a degree of continuation of a family-style life was reported by both, and the type 1s tended to be slightly more fulfilled by their scientific work, many of these subjects also reported boredom, isolation, loneliness. brought on, it seems, by the dominance of technology in their environments. Type 3s especially emphasize the extent to which mere survival seemed to be the name of the game in their cold and mechanical society, in which art, literature, and other humanistic aspects seemed almost completely absent. Most reported that if they left their enclosed cities, there was no greenery or vegetation, and that they had to wear full breathing apparatus because the atmosphere was poisonous, as well as suits that protected them from the sun's radiation, and that if these failed, they died. Their purely functional doomed cities were often built partially underground or even underwater. The progressions to 2030 and beyond were in many ways similar. The proportion of type 1s had increased, especially as a result of human colonization of planets outside our solar system. Although domed structures were often mentioned in these reports. In many cases, it seems the planets had a similar atmosphere to Earth and vegetation was commonplace. While the lives of the Type 1s in spaceships, space stations, enclosed colonies on planets within our solar system continued to be somewhat lonely in many cases, those on planets in other parts of the galaxy were more family-oriented and fulfilling, and also in many cases spiritual. The lives of the Type 2s had continued much as before, except in some cases, the relatively small community settlements had expanded into major population centers with more modern technology. But without losing their fundamental spirituality, there were hints from some that their higher vibrational state had made them less densely physical, and extraterrestrial contacts for these people often had a strong spiritual dimension.
That's very interesting, isn't it?
An enclosed city of 2,100, although considerably more than half of the Type 3s continued to live in enclosed cities because of still polluted atmosphere. A change was detectable in that a significant minority reported the atmosphere in their part of the globe was safe. These latter also reported that their lives were more fulfilling, and it seems that they were living in far less harsh, more humane, and even spiritual environment. Snow suggests that a process of convergence between Type 2s and 3s was at least partially underway by this point. And in fact, I'm not at all sure why he did not categorize these more spiritual Type 3s living in an unpolluted environment as Type 2s in the first place. Over to you, DC.
Okay, Type 3 Future City 2300. This would, what we've seen futuristic depictions in movies and on TV, etc., of what life might be like a couple of 300 years into the future. Maybe some are more disclosure than they are science fiction. Maybe some are just purely fantasized ideas, but more will be revealed. Meanwhile, apart from an apparent increase in the size of their communities, the rustic Type 4's lives seem pretty much unchanged. From a general perspective, it seemed that by this time, attitudes to death had changed completely, with most people fully realizing it was just a transition to another state. As a result, reports of choosing to leave a body that was worn out or because all tasks for that life had been accomplished were commonplace among all types. What are we to make of these group progressions? Many of the Type 2s, 3s, and 4s from both time periods reported living in various, still identifiable parts of the globe that overlap considerably. Is it possible that the members of two of these groups could be quite happily living in pollution-free environments, while at the same time, and perhaps only a few hundred miles away, those in the other did not dare to emerge from their domes without protective suits and helmets? Somehow I doubt it, which must at the very least cast some doubt to the extent to which these can all be regarded as genuine glimpses of the future. My thought exactly. The only solution would be if the type 3s were mistaken and were actually, like the type 1s, living in colonies on other planets and not Earth. But this is pure conjecture on my part. New planet. That's a picture there. New planet. Yeah, okay. Somebody's idea of what a new planet might look like. Interesting atmosphere. That would be kind of fun to look up at the sky, wouldn't it?
A little different, yeah.
Yeah. Snow himself seemed to be quite ambivalent about the extent to which we should regard these as genuine lives. On the one hand, he emphasizes that the equal distribution of the sexes supports the view that they are genuine and not just based on fantasy projection. And he backs this up with the argument that only a relatively small percentage of group subjects progressed into New Age lives, even though we might reasonably expect that the sort of people who would attend such workshops would have a far greater than average desire to see humanity evolving in a spiritual direction. But on the other hand, he seems to go along with a plethora of supposedly extraterrestrial channelings of recent decades that suggest that humanity is facing a critical time in its history and must make a choice between spiritual evolution and apocalypse, which stands in direct contrast to the idea that the two might go hand in hand that we discussed earlier. Yeah, I think that the fact that President Trump got elected in 2016 and the fact that we're seeing disclosure and the fact that the deep state and their intent to get us into apocalypse force us into these dome city ideas, force us into these it, us, or them scenarios, and keep us at odds with each other. We're seeing that dissolve right in front of their very eyes, and we're seeing the chance to actually become part of a greater community being, presented to us at least as a tantalizing effort that we might make to our own spiritual awareness and our own spiritual growth, and perhaps actually pass through that door and become part of something greater than ourselves. Please let that be true. Trust the plan. This suggests that he does not regard all these progressions as genuine, at least in any fixed deterministic sense, and that the apparent mutual exclusivity of the two types of atmospheric environment encountered on Earth represent at least two alternative futures, one apocalyptic, the other spiritual. So, despite a certain lack of coherence in his arguments, it seems that he does favor the idea that these are, quote, mass dreams, close quote, of the future that are not fixed and unchangeable. And recall, these are theoretically, at least according to the structure of the study, these are theoretically future incarnations. So you got to buy into the incarnation idea to begin with in order to assume that these people are actually seeing their future selves. Now, I don't discount that entirely. I know about out-of-body experiences. I've actually experienced them myself, so I know that they exist. But as far as the reincarnation thing, I think it's something different than that concept brings to mind. I think absolutely our energy that makes us aware of being aware, that ability to choose, I'm certain that is immutable and can't be destroyed. It can be given away, but it can't be destroyed, and that we can control it to a certain extent. The greater our frequency, if you want to put it that way, the greater our ability to control our own lives and our own destinies. But as far as the reincarnation angle, as it's been described in various religious tomes, you might say, I don't know if that's a clear picture of what it really is. What do you think, Dumper?
Well, I do believe that this idea that raising of the frequency is something that it, frequency is a state of being. Okay, and as you raise the frequency of something, it changes. Uh, it becomes something different. It
Would you
it still
say
has it still has its basic uh, its structure changes basically, and I think that so the idea that we can operate at a higher level of frequency that gives us. I mean, look at what happens when you raise the frequency. 5G can look in your house. 5G can transmit faster. Much more information can be handled at 5G. Yes, and the human
it can be described as a dimensional change?
somewhat, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, it's just a different state of being or whatever. So if we were actually to operate at a higher level, then um, you know, greater understanding, greater ability to process information. I mean, look at our, as Caleb calls it, our brain housing group. Uh, this this noggin we got up here, and the fact that it's said we use just a fraction of the ability that our brain has, and then there's the idea of our pineal gland. I was thinking about this the other day. Uh, the pineal gland is supposed to be kind of like our spiritual translator, our spiritual uh, telephone, whatever. It's what connects us to a higher self, a higher being. It's our spiritual modulator, so to speak. All right. Uh, so with the idea that they've been placing things into our environment that are damaging or limiting the ability of like our pineal gland to operate the way it should be.
Fluoridated water, for example.
Fluoridated water and all this other stuff, chlorines, chemicals, what have you. What I find surprising about this report is they're living lives uh, 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 similar to the length of time that we live now, 80, 90 years. Okay. Um, because even the Bible, all of these different things, and you go back to the Genesis, and it talks about uh, the length of life, Methuselah, and
938 years.
930 some odd years, almost
870 some years, Noah.
right, right, and you have all these people, and all of a sudden, boom, lifespans diminished dramatically. Okay, and so and you hear different theories. When we had Peter Klingon, he came in on the show, and he mentioned that maybe the tree of knowledge basically did something to our DNA, and as a result, as time went on, our ability to survive.
Regenerate.
That's okay, Danusha. Go for it. Anyway,
What is she saying?
oh, just in DMs.
Ah,
Uh,
I'm doing a share, so I can't go to DMs here.
okay. I'm gonna have to. I don't know what is it with your Windows machines, but I how you're not able to see what I can see when I'm sharing. I can see everything that whatever. Anyway, I you know I totally think that we can get ourselves to a point, because we are uh, eternal beings. Our consciousness continues on. in spite of the meat suit, right? And so it's still this idea of being limited to a particular life as a carnal being. I don't know. I think we can do a lot better than 100 years or less.
Yeah.
That's something that, well, I mean, even the Bible says those that, after the initial battle and Satan is bound up for 1,000 years, no one will die. And if anyone should die at an early age, they will die as if, it'll be very sad because it'd be like losing a child. Somebody that dies at 60 or 70 years or 120 years is a child, because
You've barely gotten started if your
yeah.
lifespan is relatively infinite.
Yeah, well, or if the life is 1,000 years, the Bible says 1,000 years of peace, while Satan is bound, and so and then basically he comes back, and there's a uh, there's a brief time where he comes back and gathers up a bunch of people that I guess didn't have enough peace and love and whatever, and didn't like, and they go to follow him again, and then it's just God says, okay, you're done. Anyway, and then you have the theory of the positive and the negative. You have folks that are their frequency is in a positive uh, uh, cycle. Okay, they believe in service to others. They believe in respecting the sovereignty of each individual person.
Personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility, service to others, um, and all of those things. And if you really dig down on that theory there, I personally like that, because it creates a society that is out to each person helps himself or helps each other, and it's a moneyless society. uh, but the technology or the physical abilities of living in a higher frequency allows you to be able to do things that we can't do now. Um, Manifest things. I don't know. It just seems like there's so much ahead of us that, and it can be a wonderful world. It can be a peaceful world. It can be a world where all things are possible. I mean, we have talked about it numerous times on this show. Where
That really has been the major thrust of this show from the very beginning.
and I truly believe that. I truly believe that if we could get past all of this ego and grab for power and control over everything, that when we get it all figured out, we are going to be able to live in concert with the environment, because we will have an understanding of the environment, and there will be a balance there. But that balance has been so twisted by these malevolent beings that have had influence over our lives, and uh, we've been deceived into allowing them to have that influence over our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's not that we didn't notice it, but we justified ourselves around it.
We rationalized it.
We rationalized it. Correct.
Yep. We made We made it so that it didn't impinge upon or impact our lives to any greater than it possibly could, and still be able to go through and do our day to day, walk through our existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
But
and really, if you get right down to it, what they did was they instituted the idea of control versus anarchy.
mm-hmm.
Of effectively communist thinking.
Well, if you inject into it money, prestige, and all of those things,
Control mechanism.
well, not necessarily control. Those are ego-driven accomplishments.
So yeah, but they
Okay. The control is by putting in the money, and in order to reap more of that, you have to you have to have some amount of control.
Yep, you got to pay more to
And
get more.
and you pay more to get more. You have 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 more. Kind of a thing.
And how much is enough never even comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. So, but if you have a keener eye, if your spiritual uh, uh, receptors are working at full potential, as in the pineal gland or whatever other glands that are organic systems in our body that allow us to perceive more of a broader range of the cosmic frequencies. Let's put it that way. So you have just a basic understanding of and you can see at some point you'll be able to see the negative and the positive, and you'll be able to discern much more quickly. But that's hidden from us right now. We're being deceived by it.
Discernment.
So I think, so the idea of raising our consciousness level, thinking about these things, digging down into those things, I think we can, come up with a more spiritually based society that's what our Creator had intended for us. I mean, we would have a greater understanding of the Creator to begin with. That Creator would be known to us as is promised in the Bible. He will come. He will live with us. He will be in our world. He will dwell among us, is what's written in the Bible. And is that in a physical sense? Is it in a spiritual sense? And is it because we will be able to actually, through our, ability and our actual, our spiritual receptors will be better tuned in, working on all cylinders, so to speak. I don't know. I'm just rambling on here. My apologies to everyone.
Well, here's what I think, and it's something that you and I have discussed in private in some of our debriefing calls, both here and on Straight Shooting. But one of the things that really sticks in my mind is that everything that we perceive to be true, and I won't use the word know, because know indicates that it's an absolute fact, and we know from science, this we do know. Scientific analysis of something means that you never get to the end. It's always an open theory until you've had infinite proof. could happen a million times, but the next time it doesn't happen. So therefore, you don't have absolute proof that it will happen in every case. So that's the point I'm making about the scientific analysis. But the point being that we live under what we presume to be empirical rules, and I'm saying empirical because they're provable that they exist, and whether or not they exist over forever is another question, but that they exist and they are rules by which our universe operates. Call it the cosmology. The planet is round, it rotates around, it orbits around the sun. The moon is round, it orbits around the earth. The planets all orbit around the sun. The sun has a gravitational pull that keeps the orbits from decaying to the extent that we fly out into space, and we are orbiting at a fast enough rate so that our centrifugal force outward from the sun keeps us from traveling into the sun. You understand where I'm going with all this? We have a cosmology that we have built our view of our existence around. And that cosmology fits a whole bunch of things. Of course, we have different physical ideas that come up, and I say physical ideas as in physics. We have different ideas of what atomic structure is, what chemical structure is, et cetera, as we learn more, as we're able to take an electron microscope and look down, or we take the Hubble telescope and look outward, we're able to see greater and greater distances, or shorter and shorter distances. We're able to know more about the physical world than we knew back maybe 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago, whatever. But the cosmology remains pretty solid. We know if you know, that up is up, down is down, that your feet stand on the ground, and that we assume to be down, that your head is up above your feet. So therefore, when you look up, you're looking up. So you can make all these, you can make actual decisions as to what you believe to be true and have them agreed to by everybody else. Pretty much nobody has ever come up with a different explanation for the difference between up and down, right? Everybody kind of agrees up is up and down is down, right? So the idea is that we operate under a set of rules that, for all of our observational capabilities, tends to validate those rules. And I think God set the entire thing up in exactly that way. This idea that we have this spiritual awakening coming toward us, that it's going to be some big change in the way things are, I don't think so. I think what it's going to be is just a greater and greater understanding of what it is we're observing. It's not going to be a change in what we observe. It's going to be an understanding of that which we are observing being of a certain thing, and being, you know, it's like being able to discern the vibration rate. Not necessarily not know it's there, but be able to understand what it is we've been feeling all this time. What it is that our observation has showed us all of this time. That yes, it's an explanation of what we already know to be true. I think it's what the real awakening is going to be. It's an understanding of that which has been mysterious to us, but has been visible to us. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And our what I've been talking about tonight, I know we're running short on time here. What I've been talking about tonight, as far as raising our responsibility level, raising our awareness level, raising our ability to increase our own frequency, isn't so that we can become, some vaporous, dimensional creature. It's so that we are no longer of the level where we're angered by others to the extent that we want to do them damage. That we no longer allow those thoughts to come to our minds when the deep state comes and says, you got to hate this person.
Well,
You
at
got to
some
dislike
point,
it because they're different.
but at some point, Dead Cat, okay, here, at some point, you raise yourself above that. I mean, when you are able to discern these things, and because it's through deception, you will not be deceived anymore. You will not, the deception will not work on you.
Exactly.
Because you will have raised yourself to a level of being able to see through it. All right. And at that point, what is the main progenitor of, conflicts? And it's doubt, it's
Otherness,
mistrust. It's so many things that cause us to be upset about things, and so I can't. I'm having a really hard time dragging the words out of myself tonight. I apologize.
I don't think
I know what I want to say, but I just can't figure out the words for it.
I hate when that happens. By the way, I'm going to get that out to you guys in link form as I promised. Hold on.
All right. Well, we are closing in on the last few minutes of the show tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and you want to sign off, then I'll sign off, and we'll finish up with our hyperdrive out video.
Absolutely. I'll do that right now. Thank you all for being with us. God bless you all. I love every one of you. Really, if anything that you take away from the show tonight, if anything, please take away the idea that love really is the highest form of energy, and it's the form of energy that the universe operates on. If we take that into our hearts and we take that out of our, out of the anger and out of the frustration and out of the, if we discipline ourselves to operate on love, we cannot help but grow and become that which we must become in order to become part of this community.
Say goodnight, Dead Cat.
Good night, Dead Cat. Love you all. God bless you. God bless President Trump. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. Make Earth great again. Hooah.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Pleasure was all ours. Thank you for joining us tonight on Hyperdrive. I appreciate everyone being here with us. You guys have a great evening. The crew will be coming up. I see Learn Shares out there. Percival's probably popping in here shortly. God bless you all. We'll see you in the morning for straight shooting, and have a wonderful rest of the early morning, or if it's still late evening for you, whatever. God bless you all. Have a great evening. Good night, everyone. God bless.
Night, Thumper. Night, Dead Cat. Good morning, everybody else. Good morning, Percy. How you doing? Morning.
Good morning, folks. How's everybody? Yes, you are now listening to the Rise and Shiners. This is Percival.
This is Learn Share.
And I'm still looking for Gray and I.
Well, he's around here somewhere. We have a Gray around here somewhere.
I'll let you know when he shows up.
All right.
Okay. To bring a rise to your shine.
And a shine to your rise.
And having said that, I'm going to drop the share, let Learn Share take you to the top of the hour, where we let you know what network you're listening to and all its rules and regs.
Good morning, afternoon, evening around the world, Patriots.
It's top of the hour.
You're listening to We the People, Patriot Soapbox 24/7 live stream.
Q Storm coverage 24 hours a day on YouTube.
We are researching topics of Q Intel information, the storm, and related news. You can find Q Intel at qanon.pub.
Below the YouTube video, you will find links to more sites of interest.
Please join our Patriot Soapbox forum, where you can interact, research, and share links of interest to the Patriot movement to make America great again.
Our live stream is